Hi, everyone. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guest may not represent those of the station or the host. Before I introduce my guest, I have a public service announcement that I'm very happy and excited about. You can now hear Chatting with Betsy on WDJY 99.1 FM, 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday mornings, which is part of Hype Media Global Corporation. And the website is www.wdjyfm.com. So I am excited about being heard on that station to reach more people. And if you haven't already subscribed to Chatting with Betsy, I highly recommend that you do so you don't miss my phenomenal guests. And I'm on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeart, YouTube, to name just a few. And with me today, I love interviewing all different types of people from all walks of life. And with me today is J. Edwards Holt from North Carolina. He is a best-selling author. He is ordained minister and mental health advocate. He's a novelist, a children's author, and he is passionate about helping the less fortunate and spreading Christian messages through his writing. He has a book, BARRENWORLD, Rise of the Red Sun, which is just, and that's Sun, S-U-N, which is just one of the many books that he has written. And I want to welcome J. Edwards Holt, that's H-O-L-T, to Chatting with Betsy. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. It is my pleasure. You, I love that you're a very nice young man. I'm old enough to be your mom. This motherly instinct. So I'm going to ask you, what I ask all my authors is, how did you come about being an author and writing your books? And I mean, you could talk about this book in particular, is what motivated you, inspired you to write this book.
Yeah, so pretty much from, I guess, elementary school, I developed an early love for writing. I just was always coming up with, various fictional characters and stories, and telling people stories a lot, and fictional stories, not lies, but fictional stories. Just coming up with that and writing stuff. And I believe it was third grade, I started writing some comic books that I would draw, and when I should have been paying attention in class, but I was drawing comics, and I would make copies of each page and staple them together and sell them to my classmates. And so that was kind of an early start for the whole book creation and selling thing. But pretty much that love of writing just followed me all throughout school. After high school, I kind of forgot about it a little bit, just was getting, focused with college and kind of career focused with going into the field of being a teacher. And, I did that for a while with writing kind of on the back burner, not really thinking about it at all. But I believe it was 2016, I decided to go ahead and try to write a book for the first time. And, I got started on it, and I really enjoyed doing it. And I just, kept on writing, and I submitted the unfinished manuscript to a publishing company, and it happened to be a Christian publishing company. And they said, we only publish stuff with somewhat of a Christian message in it. And that got me to thinking, well, okay, let me see. Maybe I'll just start putting, Christian messages in these books. And that kind of became a passion. And so after publishing the first book, it was pretty well received. So I went on to write a sequel for that one, and then after that a third one, and then I just kind of got the writing and publishing fever there, and it's still going now. But yeah, basically my love for writing started when I was very young, and it has stuck with me.
That is really cool. You know what I find fascinating with writers, Jay, is that, and I read a lot of books for my interviews, and what I find so fascinating, because I have a hard enough time to write a paragraph myself, but with the books, the characters, the dialogue, the research that goes into that. How is your writing process like? Do you have the characters first and then a dialogue? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I do. I usually, I have most of the stuff planned out. There are times when I just kind of improvise and write as I go along, but most of the time I have things planned out. I spend a lot of time thinking about it. Like I said, when I was in school, I thought about these characters when I was supposed to be, listening to lessons. Somehow I managed to make it by, though. But anyway, these characters have been in my head for so long, and one day I just decided, I want to get them out and go ahead and put them on paper and just, see if people like them, and if they do, I'll keep writing, but yeah, I pretty much, come up with the characters first and then kind of develop personalities and dialogue for them.
That just amazes me when people such as you are so creative in that. I think it really takes a creative person to come up with stories and the dialogue between characters. Refresh my memory, Jay, is your books comic characters, or is it like someone sit down and it's pages, or do you have comic pictures in there, pictures of the characters in there?
I do have one comic book, but that's the only one. The rest of them are sort of like young adult chapter books. And then there's one children's picture book as well. But most of what I write is, the page-turning chapter books.
Oh, okay. And I have to ask you, how do you get your messages in there? What kind of Christian messages are in your book? Because I know you're with a Christian publisher, because nowadays with everyone being so oversensitive and being afraid to offend someone, do you find it difficult?
No, not really. I'm actually, my stuff is all self-published now. I was with that publisher, but something happened and they just kind of went off the grid. And from then on, I decided to self-publish so that I can just, have creative control and all that stuff. But as far as the messages go, all the messages I put in the books are, if you are a Christian, you will read it and say, okay, I understand that as a biblical message. But for people who are not, it's just general kind of life messages, like, like not letting greed get in the way. That's something that's biblical, but it's also just a common sense kind of life lesson. And, love and family and, acceptance and all kinds of things like that are in there. So, I'll have people that, our churchgoers will say, oh, okay, I saw the biblical message in there. But, people who are either, not Christian or something like that, they will, just see those general good feeling life messages in there.
Well, that's what we need, I think, today, Jay, is some positivity, a positive message in a book, something that's uplifting, inspirational.
Right.
I think a lot of, people are hurting now. They're looking for comfort, especially coming out of the pandemic. And they're looking, and what's going on in the world today, a bunch of craziness, they're looking for something solid, something, inspirational to read, uplifting to read. Can you give a glimpse into what your book, BARRENWORLD, is about? Rise of the Red Sun?
Yeah, BARRENWORLD, Rise of the Red Sun, that's actually book 3 in the second trilogy that I've written. Book 3, let's see, that came out, I believe it was right at the first of the year that came out. But the BARRENWORLD trilogy is it's a story that I've been pretty much thinking about in my head for, the better part of 20 years. And, I really wanted to get it written down and get people to read it. But I felt like when I first published my first book, I felt like I wasn't quite ready to write that story that was so important to me just yet. So I wrote some other books to kind of get the feel of things. And when I felt I was ready, I went ahead and wrote it. But the BARRENWORLD trilogy it's about this. It's super fantasy and everything. It's about this magic chalice that if you drink from it, it gives you all the power you could ever want and immortality, but, it comes at the cost of your soul. And it's essentially about these characters trying to find a way to get rid of it because, with it being such a bad thing, it's corrupting a lot of people and everything. And so the trilogy focuses on them struggling to find a way to get rid of it or to get rid of its power. And, there's a lot of messages in there of, family, of friendship, love, diversity, all different kinds of things like that. And, so far it's been well received. And, I think it's a great trilogy for anyone who enjoys, young adult fantasy.
That is cool. Well, young adult, do you mean like what age group are you talking?
It's kind of a wide age group with mine because I don't really, write just specifically for kids or anything. But, I've had fifth graders read it and enjoy it, and then I've had, people into their, upper 70s and whatnot read it and enjoy it. So it's a wide variety, really. It's kind of like the Harry Potter or the C.S. Lewis Narnia books. It's just people of just about any age can kind of enjoy it.
Yes, all ages. I know when my son was younger. Oh, go ahead.
Some of them, they do have some violence in there that wouldn't be appropriate for, children under, say, 10 or something. But that's about it, really. Once, 10 and up, I would say could, a good reader at 10 could definitely read it and enjoy it, and anything up from there.
That's great because that's a wide variety. I know when my son was younger, he loved sports books. I think the author was Matt Christopher, but he stories about all different types of sports, and Josh just he loved them, and that was more like a young reader. I would say middle school, maybe through high school, but I would say more, middle school. But that is great that you have a wide variety, the age group that would be interested in reading your book. I have to ask you, that's because I'm nosy. Folks, I ask questions because of what I'm curious about. How did you become a ordained minister?
All right. So, I spent I grew up in church and everything, and I pretty much attended all the time, and we had various programs at the church that I was going to, and they were kind of like a young ministers programs, and basically I participated in those, and I graduated from those programs, and that was what gave me ordainment.
And do you go around preaching?
I don't.
Holding services?
No. As of right now, my my books are basically my ministry.
Okay. All right. And you, mental health advocate, which I just love. I think we should, in my opinion, all be mental health advocates. I'm definitely a mental health advocate. I've talked about this on my show many, many times. The pandemic brought out people need mental health services, that it's more acceptable. You've heard, I've heard, public service announcements about mental health, which I never heard before. Hallelujah for that. It's about time. That's just how I feel like, you know what, Jay, I have no shame, and I'm not ashamed, because if I say I go for mental health, I hope that encourages other people to go. And you know what, folks? We all at some time in our life might need to talk to someone, and it's okay. Right now, I am seeing a psychologist for my caregiver post-traumatic stress. I'm not ashamed to say that. We all sometimes need help. And I would encourage anyone listening, if you need help, please talk to your primary care physician. Please ask for referral services, because they're different from, your area. But please consult with your primary care doctor about that. And I'd like to know how you became a mental health advocate.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was, so at 10 years old, I was diagnosed with Tourette's. And so pretty much from then on, I spent, I've spent nearly every day dealing with various mental illness issues. Let's see. So when I was diagnosed with Tourette's, essentially with my form of it, it was a mild Tourette's, but with it came, anxiety as well as depression. I struggle day to day with OCD. And so it's just, ever since that very day, it's been a struggle. And I've been in and out of therapy since then. As of right now, I do see a therapist and a psychologist, and it's been a tough ride. And so I always sympathize with people that are dealing with something similar or the same. And I believe it was in 2020 I came across this magazine called Exceptional Needs Today, and it's a great magazine. It's a free online magazine. It's a resource for people with disabilities or people that know people with disabilities, and it basically covers a wide variety of things. And anyway, I talked to them and I said, hey, I'm an author and I've got a lot of experience with mental health. Do you need somebody to write any kind of articles or anything? And so since then I've been writing for them, just various mental health related articles. I've got one in their magazine on Tourette's, OCD, depression, anxiety, etc. So I encourage anybody to check out that magazine, because there's a lot of helpful stuff in there. And, but yeah, I consider myself a mental health advocate because I feel like I've been through most of it. And so I really sympathize with people that go through that.
Absolutely. And the name of that magazine again, Jay, is Exceptional Needs?
Exceptional Needs Today.
Exceptional Needs Today. Okay. That's wonderful that you do that. I think, Jay, in my personal experience, people who have been through depression, suffer any kind of anxiety, mental health issue, we're the ones who are shouting from the rooftops and want people to get help because it's nothing to be ashamed of. When I was 16, I went to see my first social worker. Now, back in 1974, that was not acceptable. You did not talk about your feelings or, say that you were depressed. People would say, what do you have to be depressed about? And snap out of it. And I just really feel for people. Thankfully, I don't suffer from depression, but I do have my moments because I am grieving the loss of my husband. And when, the childhood trauma really does affect you, even at the ripe old age of 65. And it's a constant work. I find myself personally that I have to work every day on myself. And could you explain to the audience, I'm vaguely familiar with Tourette, what Tourette syndrome is? Because I want people to know about it.
Yeah, I guess what a lot of people don't know about it is that it's kind of a wide sort of kind of like a spectrum too, kind of like, you've got the major Tourette's, which is the people who might walk around just constantly shaking their head or swearing or something, and a lot of people associate all Tourette's with that. But for those of us that have a mild case, it's a little, it's less noticeable in public and stuff, and it can be defined by just occasional tics or little impulses that we have that for example, you might be sitting down having a conversation, and all of a sudden you feel the urge to snap your fingers, and you just you feel like if you don't do that, you're going to explode essentially. And that's really the kind of Tourette's that I have, which is, it's considered mild, but it still affects your life in a great way. A impactful way, not great, but and so because of that, that caused me to develop anxiety and depression and all that stuff, and a lot of times that does come along with those forms of Tourette's. But I think that kind of explains it a little bit, maybe. Okay.
And did you have trouble in school with bullying? Because I know a lot of people do when they are different, or people perceive them as different, they get bullied. Did you have that problem?
Not so much with bullying, but I did have a lot of trouble with focusing in school. I was along with that Tourette's came ADD and ADHD sort of, and I was always distracted or or even missing school because of anxiety and depression. So it really made it hard for me to kind of function in school, even through college. I was still having panic attacks in college and missing class, and that caused me to not do so well in some of my subjects at first. So but not really any bullying. There may have been a little bit, but mostly what I dealt with was just kind of feeling like an outsider and things like that.
Well, I'm glad you went for help, Jay. And, you're a guy, and I feel society needs to change the way we raise our boys, because back in my day, and even girls were told not to cry, suck it up. I was told I'm too sensitive, but boys especially, if they showed any sign of emotion, were considered like they got bullied. And that teachers even made fun of them, which is horrible. We need as a society, and I've said this over and over again, and I'm going to say it again because I'm very passionate about it, we have to stop telling our boys and even daughters to suck it up and not to show emotion, because it will affect them and it comes out later on in life. We need to raise our children, whether a boy or a girl, to feel comfortable, to be able to come to a parent or a guardian and say, I'm feeling sad today. I need to go for help. Let's talk about it. But I tell people, don't shut those lines off of communication from your child, because you don't want your child to go seek advice from people that they shouldn't be seeking advice from. If I'm going to just tell the audience, if your child is having struggles, whether they're a young child, teenager, preteen, adult, young adult, please don't ignore it. Please take your child for help.
Exactly. A lot of
go ahead.
I've seen a lot of parents tend to, just brush it off, and that's obviously not the solution. Always listen to what your children have to say and take it to heart. Don't ever brush anything off at all.
That's very, very true. When my husband was dying and my son helped take care of his dad, and my son has a cognitive disability, and people had the nerve to say to Josh, be strong for your mom. I mean, like, no, do not tell my son that. He does not have to be strong. You're allowed to cry. He's watching his father die. How, we're human beings. We're not robots. And I just, my microphone is my way of helping or changing the world. And I just want to tell people out there, if you're listening to this, I want you to know it's okay. You don't have to be strong. If you want to cry, go ahead and cry.
Right.
We don't have to be strong all the time. And sometimes we are depressed. I was in a deep, dark hole myself. When I was younger, I had thoughts of suicide. When I was a caregiver, and it really scared me, Jay, that one day I was just like idolizing or just the railroad tracks by where I worked, how they felt in the summer versus the winter. Now, I never would have taken my life, and it scared the heck out of me that I had these thoughts. And I almost didn't want to face the future because I knew my husband was going to decline because he had early onset Alzheimer's. And I said, oh, Betsy, you got to get out of this hole. And I got out of it, and thank God I never went back in. But, and caregivers, they have a high rate of sometimes dying before their loved one that they're taking care of. And, we have to be able as a society to say, it's okay if you need help. And I'm really glad to see public service announcements about it. I think it's taken too long. I think it's a shame that the pandemic, in a way it made it acceptable, but it shouldn't have taken a pandemic for it to be acceptable is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And, the pandemic brought out a lot of stress in people. They were isolated, and if you already had mental health issues, it might have made it worse. How did you do in the pandemic?
It was tough. At first it was really scary for me, and it was it was really scary. It was something that was hard to deal with because, I made the mistake of watching a lot of news at the beginning and just kind of got sucked into that and, just had this sort of doomsday mentality. And, on top of that, I saw a lot of people, that I knew that I had never seen scared, and they were scared. And that just kind of, that made things even worse. But, I started coming up with ways to cope, just trying to focus on the positive. And, eventually I just came to accept, that we were in a pandemic, and I became accustomed to the way of living during that time. And, just I got used to things. And overall, I felt like that I kind of grew during that time, and that I coped with it better than I thought I would have. I handled it better than I thought I would have, and I feel like it kind of helped me as a person overall to kind of go through that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I could understand that. I had to be the only person. I mean, it's terrible there was a pandemic, but I was exhausted. My husband died in January 2020. So in March, everything shut down. And I was grateful to be at home to recuperate. However, it was very tough for my son, who needs his schedule, needs his routine. And not only is he coping with his father who died, but now his job is gone. Now he can't socialize. And it was tough. I mean, we got through it, but it was tough for it was really difficult. And I really feel for people. That's why I tell people, be kind. You don't know what someone is facing. You don't know what battle someone has. We all have a bad day. When I was going for seeing someone back in the 70s, and it wasn't acceptable then, my sister made fun of me. My family made fun of me, calling me names. And as it turned out, my sister ended up going for therapy. So, folks, don't throw stones if you live in a glass house, okay? Nobody, no one knows what curveball life is going to have for you. And so don't judge people because they may look different to you, or they might have like little twitches or something. We're all unique, and my heart goes out to people because I know what it's like to be different, and I know what it's like to be alone and sad and depressed. I know what that's like, folks. And I just want to tell people, I'm here to help you. This is why I give resources. This is why I do my show, because I don't want anyone to ever feel alone, because there is help out there. And I just think it's very admirable that you are very open, Jay, about your life. And I think that gives people hope. When people hear people on the radio say, oh, well, they have that, then I can talk about it. Or they're going for therapy, then maybe I should go. It's okay to go. And I think it gives people hope. I really do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Where can people purchase your books, Jay?
So pretty much anywhere the books can be purchased. My main seller is Amazon.
Okay.
You can Google, J. Edwards Holt, or you can, go to Amazon and look me up. And most of them are on Amazon. Most of them can also be purchased on Audible, as well as iTunes. And then the ebooks are in a wide variety of places as well. Apple Books, Google Play Books, Kindle, all those places pretty much.
And there are a lot of books, folks. So I highly recommend. going on Amazon.com. Well, J. Edwards Holt, I think you have a very bright future. You're a young man, and, the world is, they say, your oyster, and I could see you becoming famous, one day. And I hope you are. And I wish you're welcome, much success. It was such a pleasure talking to you. Is there anything words of wisdom you would like to give young people, or just all ages in general?
Yeah, you mean just general wisdom, or are you talking about like related to books or what?
Whatever. Your
okay.
Your life, the wisdom from your life, your books, anything that you'd like to share.
Yeah, certainly. I would, I always tell people to, go after your dreams. I say, if I can do it, you can do it. Always, put your priorities first, and get your education and everything, but don't be afraid to chase your dreams and go for what you want. So that's it.
That's so true. It really is true. And I'll tell you what, folks, I'll tell you from my own life experience, sometimes you do things or you are doing things that you never thought you would be doing, because life has its twists and turns. I mean, really, if anyone would have told me that I would be interviewing people and be a talk show host 6 years ago, I would have said, you're crazy. 5 years ago, I would have said, no, there's no way. And I would even say, like, when MySpace came out and then when Facebook came out, I didn't have a smartphone then, but I thought I would never put my face out on social media. I wouldn't put my face out there. But when something happens and you have a passion to tell people about something and share a story, it just changes you. And, I had my husband's story to tell, and, about helping caregivers, and I never thought I would be doing what I'm doing. I still can't believe it sometimes. But, I just, I keep plugging along, and I want to thank you, J. Edwards Holt, for coming on today and sharing your story and sharing about your book. I wish you the best, and may God bless you. You're an awesome young man. You really are.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And folks, head over to Amazon.com for J. Edwards Holt. That's Holt. I would highly recommend reading his books. Check them out. And I want to thank you for listening today, everyone. And you know what? I really do love what I do, folks. I have a passion for what I do. And all the information about J. Edwards Holt will be in the blog that Jeannie White, station manager, writes. And I want to thank Jeannie White for producing the show. She's station manager at Passion World Talk Radio. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, who's CEO of Passion World Talk Radio, makes this all possible. I want to thank you, the listeners. Thank you for listening, subscribing. Again, if you don't subscribe to Chatting with Betsy, you're missing out on a wonderful guest. And again, I'm on iHeart, Spreaker, Spotify, YouTube. And I really appreciate it when you share this show to help other people, because my mission is to help other people, and I can only do it if you help me, if you help share the show to help someone else. And when you're doing that, you're helping me, and you're helping me honor my husband's memory. It always gets me verklempt when I say that. Can't help it. And as I always say at the end of my show, in a world where you could be anything, please be kind and shine your light bright. Because if we all did that, it would be a much brighter and kinder world. And that's what I believe. And until we chat again, this is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy. on Passionate World Talk Radio. Be blessed, everyone. Bye-bye.